Andrea Leadsom.
Thank you, Chairman. Chancellor, I'd like to press you just a little bit more about the process, because having had years involved with big change management programmes, any old management consultant will tell you, it's hard enough to come up with a plan, but it's nigh on impossible to implement it. And so just to press you a bit more in terms of how you actually now turn the plan into the reality. For example, will you have a finance director in every department ensuring that budgets are met? Who will be the people on the ground, the roles on the ground that ensure that this gets rolled out?
Well, ultimately, Secretaries of State are accountable, and indeed the Prime Minister and myself are accountable to Parliament and the public for the delivery of the spending review. Now, within departments, we are trying to increase the capacity in terms of the financial management, make sure there are proper finance director roles, that the quality of data is improved. And of course, permanent secretaries are also the accounting officers and accountable, if not to this committee, then the Public Accounts Committee for those decisions. So in a number of ways, we are trying to improve the quality of the data, which, as I say, is pretty shockingly poor at the moment. And second, the accountability to the delivery of the spending review. But, and I make this observation, what I've not tried to do is set out for every dot and comma what every department needs to do with every pound of its budget. There are many, of course, many different public sector employers. There are hospital trusts, schools, local councils, government departments, and so on. And in the end, I want them to take responsibility for the delivery of their budgets. Now, I take responsibility for the budget I've given them. They take responsibility for the delivery of that budget.
So something of a revolution in accountability then?
Well, I think we are trying to increase accountability, and I think frankly there's a much greater public focus now on value for money than has been the case, and partly that has been brought about by the real world situation, and partly I would say that it's because of the focus of this government that we've made this a focus of people's attention and a focus of our own effort.
So specifically then on Whitehall cuts, are senior officials telling you that the inevitable reductions in headcount, for example, could cause problems in actually having the physical staff there to implement these cuts?
No, we have not received that message. I think it's also the case that this consolidation is coming in after a period of very rapid increases in public expenditure. So there's certainly a capacity in the government to make these savings. And I think it is, in that sense, different from some previous consolidations, which had come on the back of lean years already. If one looks, my own personal observation, if you look at the late 1970s, really from the arrival of the IMF to the beginning of the new decade, there had been attempts to control public expenditure and attempts to control wages and so on, and then a new government comes in and has to make further efforts, and of course it's very difficult. I'm not underestimating the difficulties that face us all dealing with this budget deficit, but at least we are dealing with a situation when there has been no attempt to control public expenditure in recent years, and so therefore I think there is more capacity there.
Absolutely. Just turning then to managed expenditure, do you worry that with the reforms combined with the cuts in budgets that you might undershoot there? Do you have a worry that it might be extremely difficult to achieve the level of savings in managed expenditure?
No, I think that's one of the big challenges facing the Treasury, the annually managed expenditure bill, because there has been no incentive on government departments to control those budgets, and we are looking at whether actually this whole framework of DEL-AME needs to be revisited, particularly the AME part of it, because this is a very large budget. I think now actually half of government spending that is not really, let's call it annually managed expenditure. It's not really managed, and so we are looking at a new framework, and I hope to say more about that in the budget on the 23rd of March.
Okay. And then final question. on things that you worry about. Is there part of you that worries if we do fail to deliver the cuts that we're intending to deliver, that it may be necessary to go for yet further round of cuts, as some of our European colleagues have had to do?
Well, that is certainly not my intention. I mean, what I've sought to do is set out a credible plan that delivers on our fiscal mandate. And the fiscal mandate is to bring the cyclically adjusted structural budget into balance. And I am aiming to achieve that in 5 years' time, and I'm aiming to achieve that 1 year earlier. So I've built in some caution into the plan. And actually, this relates to an earlier question about the OBR. I think it's a little understood point at the moment, but the government forecasts now are built around a central estimate rather than a cautious estimate. So the previous government and previous governments, it's not simply a point about the last government, would announce forecasts dreamt up in the Treasury and say, we've built in some caution, not that anyone could see what the caution was. Now, what we've moved to is a system where we have an independent body that produces estimates with a forecast with a central forecast built in. They announce the central forecast, and where we're building the caution into now is into the delivery of the fiscal mandate.
Thank you.